Oh, I see Cyberpunk's 1.2 patch notes have been released. Let's have a look. Let's have a look, see how many changes there are. Jesus Christ. How is there this much shit to patch? Bloody hell. What the fuck? If I printed out these patch notes onto an A4 piece of paper, which would I run out of first? The paper or the ink? Trick question, it's actually my will to live. When Cyberpunk 2077 was released, it was nowhere near ready for launch. We knew that. It was rushed out the door so quickly that it was both insulting to the fans who anticipated this game and the developers who worked on it. It was as far from ready as remotely possible, and no amount of PR bullshit can convince me that the higher-ups at CD Projekt didn't know this when they decided to release it at the end of 2020. This game is the textbook definition of fundamentally clapped, so it was obviously inevitable that this game would get some pretty hefty patches. But I think the sheer amount of patch notes in the 1.2 patch put us into perspective just how fucked this game actually was. How? How is there that much stuff that needs fixing? Big patches in games aren't unheard of, and as far as the file size itself goes, on PC at the very least it's hardly the biggest patch I've ever seen, but the sheer amount of notes in this long list. How was this game even released? These were all made in response to feedback from players and playtesting, I'd imagine, that shows just how many bugs and glitches that are actually in this game. And for them to get patched, they must be at the very least semi-frequent. And as it tends to go with patches, this likely won't be the last one, so this is more than likely not even half of the issues this game suffers from. This is the point in the video where some muppet goes down to the comments and goes, "I didn't have any issues playing this game, I don't know what you're on about. You're all wrong." Well done, I guess. Just keep lying to yourself, I'm sure it's fine. The state of the game bug-wise was only ever half of the issue with Cyberpunk, to be fair, so I'll dedicate a little portion to talking about the other big issue that this game is suffering from very shortly, but I fired up the game after the patch to see if there are still any bugs and things like that. And well, while it's cool that I can now look in a mirror while wearing a hat and not magically be bald, it's still janky in a lot of areas, enemies being stuck in walls when you kill them, NPCs changing shape or disappearing or showing up out of nowhere, sometimes right in front of you, and other times while just slightly off camera, which can be very confusing. It is a little noticeably disorienting as well, and completely breaks the immersion, or at least what little immersion this game actually has. I'm not sure if this is a bug, but there are plenty of vacant NPCs still littering the world, boxes randomly jumping out into the road, environments loading in right in front of me, causing me to crash. The wanted system is still broken as there's no actual pursuit mechanic, so the moment you leave an area, you lose your wanted level. NPC AI is still thick as pig shit. Take this man cowering in fear outside of my apartment for literally no reason. Don't get me wrong, I'd imagine this patch has improved on plenty of issues that are in this game, but there's still plenty to be fixed. Which I don't say to hold it against the developers working around the clock to try to fix the mess that they've been left with by the higher-ups and their cockiness, but rather to simply express just how fucked this game is. But regardless of how much jank you iron out, that's not the real issue with Cyberpunk 2077, and that is that the game that was promised to us and the game that we got were so vastly different. In the promotional work, Night City looked like a three-dimensional world full of layers and life, and what we got was just an empty and dead superficial open world. There are things to see, but nothing is actually going on. You see that queue at the coffee shop, it just stays there forever. There's no immersion to be had. You can't sit down on seats, vendors are all in menus, as are consumables. I know that particular point is a similar case in The Witcher, but that got so many other things right that it didn't matter. NPC AI is basic, there are full-on mechanics missing, there's a hollow husk of a wanted system, but nothing ever actually comes of you committing a crime provided you just move. I could go into so many other examples of things that Cyberpunk 2077 just doesn't deliver on, but I think you get my point. It felt like half of the game was missing. And so when you see just how many patch notes there are, you realise how early on in development this was rushed out of the door, and people will find that hard to believe considering the game was announced like back in 2012 or 2013, but considering all development pre-2016 was scrapped, it's not that hard to believe. And so that has gotten me thinking. What this game could have been is so much more than what we got. It could have been so much more than what was promised, but what we got was so much less because this game was released simply far too early. I'm not talking months and I'm not talking a year. This game was released years too early. And the Cyberpunk that was promised would have been worth the wait. But the game's out now, that goodwill's gone, and it's not worth waiting around to find out if Cyberpunk will ever be the game that we wanted it to be. Patches aren't necessarily going to enhance the experience when half of the experience just doesn't feel like it's there at all. I mean, we can hope all we want, and on that note, I hope that CD Projekt Red continues to patch this game. And furthermore, I hope they update the game to add in elements that hopefully make an experience that somewhat resembles the Cyberpunk that was promised. But I don't feel like we owe this company that patience. They released the game in the state that it was released in. For all we know, that could never happen. And I really feel bad for the developers who cared about this game and wanted it to be the best it could possibly be. Those who crunched hard and worked around the clock to make this game as good as possible before it was forced out the door. Those who wanted this game to succeed The Witcher 3. And likely are working around the clock even now to try to get the game up to scratch to even remotely resemble what was promised. As for us, the state of Cyberpunk is a bit of a shame, but for those developers, this must be a fucking nightmare. And that's where I'm going to leave this video. So thank you all for watching, I hope you enjoyed. Be sure to go ahead and leave a like, subscribe, share the channel with your friends and all that wonderful stuff, that'll be super fantastic. Of course, I'll leave a link to the patch notes down in the description if you want to go ahead and read them for yourself. Might make for some good bathroom reading material, if you're constipated. If you want to check out my Twitch channel, there'll be a link to that in the description as well. I've been banging out loads of streams over there and it's been great fun, so if you want in on that, go ahead and join us. And with any luck, I'll be seeing you all very soon with another video at some point, but until next time, take care and goodbye.